Welcome back, and this is part 7 in the High Plains trip, and this is coming up to the last crossing on the Caledonia River, coming out of the Caledonia Valley to head up Dingo Hill track. And you can see now it's getting a lot wider than what it was when we first dropped into the Caledonia Valley and done that first river crossing up north there. As we've been working our way down the valley, it's been picking up all those other creeks and streams on its way across to flow into the mighty McAllister and head down towards the ocean and into the Gippsland Lakes. And I've just jumped out to film this last crossing over the river here because it comes around the bend and it runs past this really nice cliff face as it heads down through the valley. And there's a nice little camp spot here beside the river. You can see the fire there behind the car. But it'd be a good spot if you were parked up with the kids and they could play around these rock areas in the river. Nice and open. You've got a good field of vision here. Probably not an ideal location if it was a long weekend and you weren't into four-wheel drive spotting. And here we are at Dingo Creek. Now, of all the spots that haven't changed a lot over the last 30 years coming up Dingo Hill, this is one of them. It's pretty much the same as the very first time I ever come down here. And very unique, the track being part of the waterfall on the way through. And to your left-hand side, up the side of the hill there, you can see the water running down over the cascades. Very nice. There we go, this is the first part of Dingo Hill leading up to this creek crossing where it really starts to climb. But this is a reasonably gentle climb up until that spot. A lot of this has been majorly changed since the first time I come down here. I think the biggest changes to Dingo Hill were about probably 25 years ago. Maybe 30 up near the top where the switchbacks are in. For anyone that come down here in the early 2000s, probably 2001, 2002, 3 maybe, they'd remember that the bottom of here where it come down to the Caledonia River and it turned back up towards Butcher Country, that fork there was major holes in the track, like you could lose your whole forby in there because it was so eaten away by erosion. But yeah, they obviously done something about it when they done this. And this is the last of the quite mellow part of the climb for Dingo Hill. From here on, once we get down to the bottom here, we're going to drop away and we'll get to the bottom to a creek crossing. And from here on, it's going to be a serious climb up. It's nowhere near like what it was when I first came up decades ago. It has been changed quite a lot, but for anybody that's not been four-wheel driving before and they've got their brand new 4B, this is probably not a track to come on because it's still quite steep. And if it rains or you've got any difficulties at all and you have to come to a standstill, getting started and some of the rock ledges and stuff on it will be quite tricky. It's not impossible, but I wouldn't recommend it for any first timers. And here we go, we're about to climb up. And you can see here by the way those trees are leaning into the hill, we're on a serious climb now. When I first started travelling to the high country, I used to sit there for weeks and study the maps and the topographic maps especially, and I'd be looking for those really tight contour lines. Well, Dingo Hill is one of those that I headed to straight away. And Trig Track across from Thompson Dam, there's a lot around this southern Gippsland area that were super steep before they all got changed. And Dingo Hill's still very steep. It's just it's got a lot of switchbacks in it to take a lot of it out of it. And those familiar with Dingo Hill track will know that this section here is quite steep. The drone's up high, so it's pretty hard to pick up the incline, but it does get quite skatey through this section here because of how steep it is and dust on top of the rocky sections on the ledges. This is an epic shot looking down the Caledonia Valley towards the McAllister River. Because I'm up quite high with the drone here, you can't see how epic those rock shelves are and how steep and off angle they are coming across. Nothing too crazy, but enough to keep you on your toes at this point. Although it's very hard to pick up visually how steep it is, you can see there the tyres and the way the car's working up around the bend there, that it's quite an incline here, especially getting up through this next section here. And there's some video coming up of looking back off here out into the valley, and you can really get a good idea how steep it is then. You'll see the black marks on the rocks here where the big, really big heavy vehicles have really been struggling up here. This section is definitely up, up and more up. Even the drone was looking to get in the car here and the rest from the climb. You get a really great look at how these Bridgestone ATs, the road biased ATs, are working on this sort of stuff with 20 PSI, this bit here. Coming up around the bend is probably the only part left now where you can see where the original Dingo Hill went through. If you look straight through here where the vehicle is now and up the hill, you can see a cleared spot, but this is where the track went straight up before they put the switchbacks in. And this was just as gnarly as, I had a short wheelbase Defender that I'd built, and a lot of this section here I had the fronts off the ground. For a majority of the way. You can see it again there through there. It was just wild. And the worst part was, it was so steep you didn't want to stop, so you had to keep it nailed. But keeping it nailed, you had the wheels off the ground, and it was just incredible. The climb up, and the Shorty had 36-inch TSL SX Super Swampers on it, which I'd brought in from the US because we didn't have big tyres in Australia back then. And with the aluminium engine up the front, the aluminium V8, the power to weight ratio just kept lifting the front the whole way up. Because with those super swampers, it was just 100% traction. And especially because the shorty was so light, it was only around 1500 kilos, that I could run around at about 8 psi the whole time and it wouldn't throw a tyre off a rim. And I can still remember like yesterday what I was thinking the first time I went up here, you know. It was all brave and, you know, oh, this is going to be great. And by about halfway up, you're just going, mate, when is this going to end? Is it going to get any steeper? This is insane. Okay, keep an eye out now when the drone's up a bit and you can see off the edge of the track back down over the other switchbacks, and you can see just how steep this section is. I'm just cursing myself a little bit. There's so much going on here trying to fly this drone, get all this footage and work out the angles, that I should have put the drone right up at this point here in the air so that you could see the drop off back down into the valley over these switchbacks. But unfortunately, I didn't. And as you can see, we're starting to have a couple of run-ins over track space here through these switchback sections. Okay, you get a peek over the edge here. One of the things I can say for sure about the old Disco, it can do all those things that all my really modified vehicles could do with all the huge tyres and the add-ons. These things are just incredible straight out of the box. It's that centre of gravity, that perfect balance of that 100-inch wheelbase. They are just an incredible thing. And I certainly don't think twice about sending this thing up anything with just the skinnies and one diff lock in the rear. Now's probably a good time. I do get asked a lot, especially on the Instagram, how much this roof rack weighs. When I built this roof rack, I built it as light as I possibly could. It's very, very thin walled and light aluminium, and it's under 50 kilos, just under 50 kilos, but it's about half the weight of your average rooftop tent. So you can see by the behaviour of the car, it's really not heavy at all. And I run those jerry cans empty pretty much all the time, especially if you're out the high country. This thing runs on the smell of an oily rag. But if you were to fill those up, and when you're heading out into the desert, that's obviously another 40 kilos up top as well. I did miss quite a few of these switchbacks on the way up with everything going on, keeping an eye on the drone and what I was going to film and the angles. But you can see old Disco's a pretty small car, it's mid-wheelbase, so it gets around this stuff, no worries. And bear in mind, seasoned campaigners in the high country or anywhere in Australia, when was the last time you've seen so many switchbacks in a row? It's very unique, and there's probably, you could count on your hand all the places in Australia where if there's something so steep, you've got this many switchbacks to get up. Particularly in such a short section of track from where the switchbacks start to where they finish. Okay, well, we're out of the switchback section, which is the steepest part of Dingo Hill. But make no mistake, this next section up here through to the top is still very, very steep. And there was one section here where the drone decided to pull up right in front of me while I was on the move. When I got off the throttle and started again, I sat on the spot with 3 wheels spinning before I moved off, because it was just so steep where I was. If you look closely when I get up to the top here, you can sort of just get an idea of how steep that section was back through there. So that's the Dingo Hill climb. We're just about at the crest now, probably only about another 500 metres or something, and we'll be heading back downhill and out again onto the high plains. There's some nice views out there in a minute. But it's definitely a track that everyone should come and do. And the great part about it is all the other cool tracks and places to camp around it, like the McAllister River, the Caledonia River, even right up on the top of the high plains. This is a sensational area. If you really want to test yourself out and see some great views, you can either drive up it or down it. Either way, for most four-wheel drive owners, it's the trip of a lifetime. Because sadly, 90% of four-wheel drive owners don't go off-road. But this is one of those places that you just need to push yourself and find 3 days and just come and do it. You will never regret it. Okay, here we are, going down the other side. It's only just a small drop off down now into the high plains. And it's a nice drive out here across where it opens up into these high plains. It's another thing that's changed a bit over the years. This was a two-wheeled goat track, this section here. But you know, it's been upgraded and upgraded over the last 30, 35 years. With the huge leap in four-wheel driving around COVID and after COVID, what's going to happen with the high country? It's going to end up like anyone that's been to the US and you go four-wheel driving over there in any of their parks, it's all signposted and permits, and that's all going to happen here, unfortunately. But there's just so many people coming out, you can't stop it. They need to manage it, unfortunately, and that's what's going to happen. The roads and facilities will get better and better, and that feeling of just being out in the scrub on your own that you used to get in the high country, particularly before the four-wheel driving boom, will be over. But what's a loss to some of us, other people will really enjoy the idea of having toilets around the corner and all the camping facilities. So it's just one of those things. There was just so many things around Australia, travelling around Australia for the last 30, 35 years that we've done, that you'd turn up and it was just wild. You know, there's hardly anyone was out there, hardly anyone would come through. But now with this boom, you see videos and pictures from other people on social media. It's just completely changed. But it's just one of those things you can't stop. But I mean, the thing that we all used to enjoy was that feeling of the wild and the woolly, and you used to get that definitely in the high country. You could come out here any weekend that wasn't a long weekend and you wouldn't see another vehicle. And midweek, just forget it, you'd be walking. I brought many people up to Dingo Hill and out the Caledonia Valley and that, and when we coming up from Lacola way, coming up through here, people just are blown away by this section here. It's changed very little other than it's a bridge across the creek now, or river, and before it was just a river crossing. You can see now there's some signs put in place and all that was obviously never there. But it's a very pristine part of the high country, this. And I've had people that were keen anglers, trout fishermen, and they just couldn't believe that you could walk into the water and pick them up with your hands here. It's just untouched. But that wouldn't be like that now. There'd be people here all the time. And not far from just where we were is the Howard High Plains Road, and we're heading back down now towards Lacola and the Wellington River, where we're going to find a campsite and set up early and just enjoy the river for a bit. And we'll be able to roll into Lacola first thing in the morning and head back towards Jamison for the rest of the day. It's a long climb out of here if you're coming up to Howard, or a long descent. And this section here where you see there's a pull-off, you could actually see all the trees there on the left, they weren't there 20, 30 years ago. And you could see straight off, there's a huge view off that side there. And you can see from that lookout a long way out, 100 kilometres or whatever, because Howard's the highest in the region. So it is quite the view from there. We're getting quite late in the afternoon. It's daylight savings because we're in Victoria here and it's summertime. So I reckon must have been about 7 o'clock or something probably at this point here. The sun was getting quite low. But this is where it goes to bitumen, where you cross the Wellington, and there's a lot of really good, well-made campsites by Parks along this all the way to Lacola. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try and it's not a long weekend, so there shouldn't be that much people there, and I'm just going to try and find one that I've got to myself pretty much. And for anyone that's watching that likes to take all the gear and they've got a caravan and they want to set up somewhere in the high country or down in this region, this 20 k's out of Lacola up towards Howard is a really good spot. They've got some really nice designated campgrounds. Some of them have got toilets and that as well. But it really is somewhere you can set up as a base camp for a while, you know, over the holiday period. This next one, Cockatoo, I think it's called, is quite a good one. It's got toilets, you can see there, but it was chock-a-block full of caravans, so I'm out of here. This footage in driving down the road back towards Lacola here, because it really is very picturesque heading down this road, and you can see the rock cliffs out there in the background and the lush green drive as you're heading down. And this is our camp for the night. It's probably not that brilliant spot to look at, and there's no toilets, but we're on our own here. But it's a really great spot on the river, which you're about to see. The Wellington's just another one of those really great rivers in a really picturesque location in the high country. It's just one of those classic Australian looks back through to those rock cliffs, heading down the river over these cascades. Very, very nice spot. And this is a duck as we fly over. Wasn't intimidated by the drone at all, that fella. And that's the end to another part in the series. And hopefully I'll see you back for the drive into Lacola and then heading back down towards Jamison, where we're going to turn off and do Silvermine and then head over through Mitchell's home. There's at least 2 more parts to go.